do some things like that. So Gary's paid me a lot of money to do this presentation. I'm not Zig Ziglar. I'm not, what's all Dale Carnegie and Tony Robbins, and they make big money. They give a lot of motivational speakers, and they do this. One thing I'm going to do when I finish this thing, though, that they don't do, I'm going to give you guys in here, everybody in here, 4 or 5 things that if you'll do them, you'll increase your business next year.
What's it cost us, $3.99?
Doesn't cost you nothing. $3.99.
Will you give it to the
change.
guys?
Your seat in
Send
the
it
door.
in.
Jimmy, will you give it to the gals too, or to the guys?
Anybody that wants it, if all you got to do is come on in, Ellie, just in time. But what we try to do, what I try to do is just, like I said, I'm not a professional speaker or anything. I just pull some stuff up from you guys that have heard me saying some little sayings every now and then. And I just tried to put some of these things together. So most of these things is Jimmy's quotes and sayings, and then recommending a goal strategy for the year. I think everybody in here, the reason you're here is because you want to make a little extra money, and you can do it if you do it. But think about it. It's January, it's 2016. What are your goals? Does everybody in here have goals?
Yep.
And that's great, and that's what you want to do. So you want to have something to shoot for the next year. You got to have a goal. If you don't have a goal, you don't know where to aim. You don't know where to go to. And I'll give you a little example. And Bob's not here, and I wished he was, and Bill's here. But we play golf every week. And I keep an Excel spreadsheet of everything we've done. And the last 2 years, I finished last. Dead last. Jeff's the winner every year. Okay, I want to have a goal this year. I don't want to finish first, because I know I can't do that because we have a pro here. But I want to improve, so I want to take one step at a time. So you want to have a little step at a time. So how do I have to have a plan to do that? To keep from finishing last all the time. So you got to plan your future goals. A goal without a plan is just a dream. I just can't go out there and say, I want to play better golf. What am I going to do about it? You got to have a plan. So I made a plan. I'm going to buy some new clubs. I'm going to get some lectures, lessons from people. Jeff's giving me a lot of lessons, but I keep finishing last. But
Because you don't listen.
I do listen. I have improved, but I
They're a
have.
new instructor.
But they've improved much better than I have.
So
So
that's why he's number 1 and you're number 4, because he's telling you what to do.
that's right. That's right. But you got to have a plan. So and his plan is, he quit for a long time, and he started back playing again. And he went out and hit balls, and he got a new club, and he got back, and he got excited again. He started doing like he used to do before, and he had a plan, and he stuck to it. And we've had a lot of fun doing this, and hopefully at the end of the year, my goal is not to finish first, because my goal is just to not finish last. So and my plan is that I put in place is to get better clubs and get some lessons. So that's pretty simple. So if you're planning tomorrow's work today, you're not planning far enough in advance. I'm not planning to do something today or tomorrow. I want to look in the future, the end of the year. The end of the year, when I get my Excel spreadsheet, we have a little dinner every year with our wives come out. And Bob's not here, but his wife gets little gifts for everybody. And I always finish last, So hopefully my goal, I'm looking at the end of the year so I don't do that. So you start planning today for in the future. Don't plan today what you want to do tomorrow. You got to make a plan. And Ben Franklin, if you fail to plan, you're planning to fail. You guys have heard that over and over and over again. So I've re-emphasized the planning thing over and over again because you can't reach a goal unless you have a plan. So as we talk about your goals, whatever your goals are in this room is to be to sell more houses, get more money, be the top listing agent, be the top sales agent, be the top producer, whatever it is, put something in place to try to do it. When you plan your goals, it's like my golf thing. You set your goal. My goal this year is to improve. Make a plan. My plan was to try to my clubs were 15 years old. They were used clubs. You know, I still don't make the difference about my swing. I'm not very good.
Technology.
But I have improved some, thanks to Jeff and Bill and Bob giving me some lessons. Well, so I made a plan to get some more clubs. And I make a plan to, as soon as the weather breaks, I'll go out and take a couple lessons from Gordon. I went to Gordon's golf shop instead of the internet. I may pay a little more money because he's a resource I can use versus Amazon.com or Golfsmith or something like that. Then you got to get to work. Then you got to stick to it and do what you say you're going to do. And hopefully at the end of the year, and we'll look at it and see if you can reach your goal. So we're talking about goals, and after this meeting, or this week, Tammy is going to sit down with everybody in here and talk about your goals. And talk about, she wants to help you, Gary wants to help you, Elaine wants to help you. We want to improve your business. If you improve your business, it improves Century 21, the Realty Group's business. The company spent a lot of money on new phones, advertising, and different things like that to try to improve. So we want you guys to be a part of it. And Tammy's coming here to take some of her leadership skills and take some of these things and sit down with each one of us and help you individually. If you're interested in improving yourself, make goals, make a plan, get to work, stick to it, and reach your goal, whatever it is. Don't make a goal that you want to be big as Gary one day, because you know he took him 10 years to get where he's at today. You know, he just didn't do it overnight. But think about
That on video.
I wasn't talking about big and fat, I was talking about big in production. Big in production. Well, this is an ad-lib meeting, you can tell that by Gary's jokes. Okay.
Bad choice of words.
These are some of the things that I've done or I've talked about and stuff along, and some little sayings that I'll add to help reach your goals. You catch more flies with honey than you can with vinegar. You probably heard me say that several times. Even more with fly paper, plus you don't contaminate your honey. I do a lot of listings. I want my listings to sell. There's a lot of people in here that, and I'll mention the name, Dan Jenkins, you know, maybe people don't like, Dan turned me in one time and told some lies about me. But when Dan wants to sell my house, I'm going to call him, how you doing, Dan? What's going on? I don't care if I don't like him or not. I'm going to be nice to him because I want some of his people to sell my houses. This is a very, very small town. Everybody knows that. Bill was in Raleigh, and they do a lot of different things in Raleigh that they do from around here. But everybody knows what everybody does. If you're an a-hole, excuse my French, or if you're whatever here, and if you don't try to cooperate with your fellow neighbors, there's 5 houses to show. They're probably going to go look at the other guy's house. Because I don't want to work with Jimmy Register or Gary Butts or Tammy because they didn't go to my broker's open house last week or something. So think about what you're doing with your fellow realtors. Another thing I've always tried to live by, and some of these I came back from DuPont and all my structures, the harder you work, the luckier you get. And I know when I first came here, Elaine said, well, I don't know, but I'll try to make a real estate agent out of you one time. But I went to a lot of brokers open, and I won some money. And Laurie said, well, Jimmy, you're the luckiest guy in the world. You always win. Elliot's won a lot of brokers open last year. Why? Because he went. It's a numbers game. He worked harder. That's why he got rewarded with a little extra money. The harder you work at anything you do, the luckier you get. And I'll put it back to golf again. We play golf a lot, and somebody hit a good shot, and we all work hard, and Jeff will say, I'd rather be lucky than good any day if you make a good shot. So, but to get lucky, you got to work hard. Back to golf again. This is my job, not my hobby. You got to work at it like it's your job. Everybody in this room,
We're talking about real estate right now, right?
Right. Everybody in this room worked somewhere before. Gary worked for TRW, and Hammock, she worked for the airlines, and Jeff worked for Coca-Cola, and Jane sold paint for Globe Hardware, and Steve was a famous stockbroker, and Mary's rich, she never had to work, but she works for Quest, and Bill was a Northwest Mutual broker, and I don't know what they did. But bottom line is, somebody told you when to go to work, right? Somebody told you when to get off. somebody told you how much money you were gonna make next year. Every time. This is your job. You are now, and I'll repeat this like I said, look, you're the president and CEO of your own company. Nobody's telling Elliot when to go to work, when to go home, but his productions is increased. Go look out there in the sign. His name's out there, top producer, because he's put some interest and effort in his job. It's his job, not his hobby. So you have an opportunity here. You're not controlled by Coca-Cola or TRW or Northwest Mutual, anything like that. Now, you're your own person. You can do what you want to do. So it's up to you. You just put some interest in it, work a little harder, and you get it. Another thing I'll say is don't get too high on the high and too low on the lows. I put the girl up there because people look at her.
Bill's zooming in on that, look at
Yeah,
it.
Bill's zooming in on it. But the problem is too high on the hemline, too low on the neckline. But you walk around, you'll get a sale or somebody's going to buy this house for me. Next thing you know, somebody's deflated your balloon and you've gone downhill and stuff. It's very difficult. I'm a very enthusiastic person, very emotional myself. So, when I first started, Jane said I'd be down the hall popping and snapping, going good. But I was excited about it. I really was. But over a period of time, each one of us in here have been excited about something and somebody's pulled rubber out from under us and we've down. So I'm not the only one. You're not the only one. We think we're the only one sometimes, but everybody's had it happen to it. That's pretty important right there. It's not over till the fat lady sings. It's not a closing till you walk out of that attorney's office with a check. The hardest job you guys got in here, or the hardest job we have any time, not when you sell the house, not when you ride the guy around, is after you sign the contract and get it to closing. And I've told this story before, but me and Gary had a closing years ago. And Alan Hahn's office, we walked it in, we got everything ready, and I was the buyer's agent, he was the listing agent. And my repairman was standing outside. He said, "Man, it's Friday, I gotta get paid." I didn't know when Alan was gonna record it. So I wrote him a check out for $3,000. It's Friday afternoon, about 2 o'clock. I was going into the closing. We got halfway through the closing, Nicole walks through the door and said, Stop! This house is going into foreclosure." I said, "Gary, why didn't you tell me about that?" "I didn't know it either."
Bankruptcy.
Yeah, it was a went into bankruptcy. So I lost $3,000 by thinking it was closed and it wasn't. But good old Gary got that house back a couple of years later, and
We won't that long.
a year later, and
I got it from the bankruptcy court.
got it from the bankruptcy court. About a year anyhow, and he put a mechanic's lien on it, and I got my money back. But it ain't over till the fat lady sings. Every house will sell in time. If a buyer wants to buy and a seller wants to sell, you can do it. Sometimes I got a mobile home in Tick Fight that took 3 years to sell, but the guy kept it with me and I got it sold. Everyone in this room has some stuff, and we get discouraged that we've had it on the market for so long. Every house, Elaine told me that, every house will sell in time, and there's a buyer for every house. So get it, run with it, and if we can keep the program with us, it'll do it. It's a numbers game. You got to run every rabbit. I put the Playboy rabbit up there to get somebody's attention, but really, there's a lot of ways to make money in this business. There's a lot of rabbits to run. People, she's closing one on Tiberius from Lead Router that we got. I've got a listing I'm going to tomorrow that I got on Lead Router. Lead Router is going to give you something. Call Duty is going to give you something. Walk-ins, the referrals. The biggest, best advertisement you got, your business card. It's free. You just walk around and hand them out to people. Somebody's going to get it. As we talked about last time I was talking, was about advantages of listing. That's free advertising. You got a sign out there. Jane goes and buys her own signs, for example. But you got a sign, doesn't cost you a dime. You put that sign in, people ride by and look at it. You got it. So, if you want to continue to stay in the business, take these little leads here and run them there, and you see what happens. Something will happen eventually. I took this from Elaine the other day, but that's the sales statistic. She sent it to everybody, and I'm sure everybody looked at it, but 48% of salespeople never follow up with a prospect. 25% of salespeople make a second contact and stop. In this business, you gotta keep on keeping on. It's not gonna fall in your lap. A lot of times you look around and you say, well, it fell in your lap. It doesn't fall in your lap. Charles been in business a long time. Nothing falls in your lap. You have to work for it, but the harder you work, the luckier you get. And in Anita closing, to the fat lady sings. Charles and I did one time. I woke up the next morning, watched the news, and Blue Eyes was burning up, and we had a closing that day. I didn't get no money out of that. So it don't happen till it happens.
It sold last month.
That's right. Yeah, well, the land closed. Time's money. Once again, you're the CEO of your own company, you're the president, you're also the secretary treasurer. So you want to manage your time and see what your time's worth. I like to think my time's worth $100 an hour. And I base every sale I get on $100 an hour. And I keep records of it. Can I make $100 an hour? I don't do it every time. And sometimes I make 10 cents an hour. Sometimes I make Chris Eastman, the banker. We listed a house out there in, what's that lake, off of Porter, Eastern Pines Road, Lake Glenwood. Listed it at 12 o'clock, and at 2 o'clock we were signed, sealed, and delivered. Chris Eastman bought it, and I spent 4 hours and got a $4,000 commission. That was $1,000 an hour. That's very rare, but you need to look at your time and how much time you spend in it. If you're running a business now, this is your business. You're not working for DuPont or anything. They're not telling you when to come to work, when not to go home, how much money to make. They're not controlling your income. If you got that mobile home that's only worth $50,000 and that guy's running your ragged, you're spending 10 hours a day working with him, it's not, the view ain't worth the climb. But, you know, where you going, gas 10 cents a gallon, cheaper at the station 5 minutes away. You spend 9 minutes of your time to save $1, you're working for less than minimum wage. The only surprise in this business is no surprise. These are just some of the sayings I've come up with before and talked about, but something's going to happen. I guarantee you something's going to happen. I'm working on Flora Drive. Elaine asked me to do that for Janet. Janet's been sick. It's been 2 or 3 months to closing. It's a Cardis relocation. That's one of them you'll make 10 cents an hour on when you get through. But you had to do all the reports and split the. Janet's getting half of it, and the people moved out 2 months ago, and I had to put utilities in my name. I had to winterize it. It's going to close supposedly today or tomorrow. Well, I have to get the utilities in 3 days in advance. Well, Martin Luther King, I sent it in Friday. I haven't heard back from Cardis. I don't know if I get paid for that or not. But they called me yesterday. They went through a walkthrough, and somebody, the sellers took the refrigerator. There's no refrigerator in that house. And Cardis was off yesterday. Yesterday's Martin Luther King's birthday. You couldn't get up with anybody. You couldn't talk to anybody. Closing's supposed to be today at 3 o'clock. So, you know, after this meeting's over, I don't know what'll happen. But the only surprise in this business is no surprise. Something's going to happen every time you turn around. After you've done everything, you can talk this and talk that, but at the end of the year, you measure performance on end results, what kind of success you had. It's in black and white. We're having a business meeting the 29th, I think. Elaine, Tammy, Gary, going to feed us oysters and everything, and that's what your production will look like. But all the ones that went to closing, the numbers will tell you that. I can send you a copy of this if you want to look at it, but that's some things. You have to have a great attitude. The 21 suggestions for success there's lots of good things on there, you know, but basically be loyal, be honest, be a self-starter. Marry the right person. This one decision will determine 90% of your happiness or misery. Bottom line, don't do anything you wouldn't make your mom proud. But if you work your philosophy around your job is take care of the ones you love. Stop blaming others. Take responsibility for everything of your life. Have a grateful heart. Be generous. Persistent. But there's lots of things that you'll put in your thing about motivation, taking care of yourself, and it'll transfer right over to the way you do business every time.
I think one needs to be added and it's show up. Just show up, be there.
Treat everybody you meet like you want to be treated. Commit yourself to constant improvement every day. It reflects on your business, who you're working with. It reflects on your peers that you work in the office to. Become more positive, enthusiastic person you know. There's lots of good things, but you could add to that. But the main thing is successful people in the business have positive attitudes and they treat people pretty fair and honest. Bottom line, again, the future depends on you. You've got the brains in your head. You've got feet in your shoes. You can steer yourself in any direction you choose.
Now you have to sing in the pines and.
In the pine. Anybody can be average and ordinary, but it takes effort to rise above the rest. I was a top overall producer in 2014. I knew nothing about real estate when I came here. I came out of DuPont. Elaine, Laurie, Nancy, and everybody was here, pushed me and helped me and fussed at me and everything. To say, I'll make a real estate agent out of you one day. And I still don't know everything. I learned last week when Jane come in, and that was very, very educational. And I do appreciate it about what you did last week about the streets and the roads and the bypasses and stuff. And that's something we need to know. And she made a good point about that this is coming out. Get somebody to initial it in the thing in your contract. It'll save you. It's an old Latin word, anus protectus. I promise you at the end of the time, and I don't want to talk a long time, but some simple goals for you. If you guys will do this, every one of you will take some of this stuff, write down what you want to do and accomplish every day. Just, you'd be surprised how much more work you can get done if you make some notes in your office when you start. Increase your advertising budget. Laura's not here, but I was going to mention her name, and I will. She increased her advertising budget. She's one of the top producers in the office now. Is that a coincidence? You judge. Further your education in real estate by taking a designated class. How many people in this room have taken designated classes? How many people have not?
You mean for this year?
Anytime. Yeah, but you've taken some designated classes. But if you look at the statistics, how many's taken 2 or 3? So, statistics will show you the more designated classes you take, the more things you have, the more money you make, the more
People
successful.
like to see those
I use in my listing
those
presentation
designations beside your
every
name.
time that I say, I furthered my education in real estate. If I go up against Aldridge and Southern, they're very difficult because they talk about what their company does. I said, let's talk about what an individual does. You're sending Susie Q over here, and she's never been in real estate, but she's standing behind Aldridge and Southern's top market. Has Susie Q done anything to further her education? Have I? Yes, I've got a GRI. What's that? I tell them a GRI is a master's degree in real estate. I pay for that. I go to school for that. It furthered my education on real estate. I'm always trying to enhance my ability on that. And there's a couple things you can do pretty quick. ABR, a buyer's accredited buyer representative, you can do that in a couple of days or something.
You can do it online.
Do it online. ePro you can do online. Jane is, if you want some resources, there's one right over there. She's the head of she's on committees with the National Association of Real Estate and North Carolina Real Estate. But everybody ought to get a designation. If you increase your advertising budget, you can advertise in the paper $50. Take at least 4 Saturday call duties. Elliot left, but Elliot, who takes the most call duties on Saturday? Elliot. What's he get? He gets his picture in the paper. He gets free advertising. Has Elliot increased his business this year?
Mm-hmm.
Is it a coincidence? Those are things you can do. Make a goal to attend the Tuesday business meetings and caravans all the time. Hopefully, with the change the culture of the meetings in here, you're going to learn something. We learned a heck of a lot last week, we hope, and we'll apply it. But if you're going to do this for your job, you're gonna make this part of your role in life and you wanna increase your business, show up. They don't ask you, the company doesn't ask you to do much here at all. They'll feed you once in a while and, have a Christmas dinner for you and a awards dinner and come to a business meeting in a caravan. That's only twice a month. And it spends an hour of your time. But you'll learn something, you'll be exposed to the other people. You talk about, we learned something about Bill's new house, we learned something about Jones got a house, we learned something about Mary's place today with the nice kitchen and stuff. But if you'll do that, if you do some of these things here, at the end of the year, if you make a plan, you'll see some success in your
The
business.
more you're involved, the better you're gonna be.
And that's it, and I appreciate your time, that's all. folks.
Now you got to sing in the pines.
I sing that when I